Lucky to have one of Wall Street's finest, Bob Dahl, CEO of Crossmark Global Investments. Bob, we know that in many cases like this, these are short sell-offs. Already we're seeing the markets at least trying to come back. How important is it to watch these events, but also make moves when you see an event like this, or stay static?
Most people have to stay static because these moves are so quick, Liz, as you know. Having said that, I find a lot of people owning very little in energy. Of course, energy had a horrible third quarter. That's the opportunity. So on pullbacks, I would own some energy stocks at a minimum as an insurance policy in your portfolio should the price of oil catapult higher. The surprise to me, I guess, is that the moves weren't bigger than they've been. The market's been pretty complacent as geopolitical issues, especially in the Middle East, have bubbled up from time to time. It's had very little effect on stocks and bonds, but today you're starting to see it, of course, because the price of oil now is a question mark.
Yeah, well, at the moment, we've got light sweet crude at $70.13 in the aftermarket, still up about 2.8%, but off the highs. Would you go into oil names at this point simply because people have been avoiding them?
Yeah, if I was very underweight in energy or had nothing in my portfolio, I would buy some. Well, these moves tend not to be straight lines, Liz, but I want that insurance in my portfolio. And insurance includes energy stocks, but some defense stocks as well, which, of course, are up the limit today.
Yeah, as I showed you, most of them are hitting not just one-year highs, all-time highs, as we said, for RTX, General Dynamics, Northrop Grumman. It's unbelievable, Lockheed Martin. Let's talk a little bit about the Fed, because we have to point out that the Fed came out yesterday, the Fed chair, and basically said, you know what, we are going to see a baseline scenario for the rest of the year of just 2 more cuts. Well, there are only 2 more meetings, but of each 25 basis points. So not a jumbo if the economy stays stable. We got the JOLTS number today. Granted, it's very rear view mirror because it's the August job openings and labor turnover, but came in actually better than expected. 8.04 million, expected was 7.66 million job openings, which basically indicates that there are more job openings than there are workers. So what does that tell you about the economy?
Well, it says the economy, that individual statistic, is doing just fine. And the chairman yesterday said the economy is A-OK. He feels like the Fed's got the balance between fighting a weak labor market and inflation pretty much in balance. And the 25 and 25 for the rest of this year assumes their mainline scenario that the economy's OK. And the report today would support that. I think there are other labor statistics, as you know, Liz, that are showing signs of some more weakness. We'll see how they develop in the weeks to come. Okay,
let's talk about what you like at the moment, Bob, because you gave us 3 names. I want to share those with our viewers. Let's begin with Cigna. Cigna's an interesting one, and I want you to explain your theory behind why people should pile into Cigna.
Yeah, look, Cigna, among other those HMO stocks, are pretty inexpensive, less than a market multiple by a fair amount. Cigna, I think, has a chance over the next few years to continue to grow its earnings at about 10%. And when I come by companies with that kind of growth, that have that kind of discount, they have the advantage of having less government-exposed health care than many of the other HMOs, which is among the reasons why I think it's an interesting story.
Bob, can you hold on for a second? We've got some breaking news. Former President Donald Trump is making remarks right now in Waunakee, Wisconsin. He's specifically talking about Iran's missile attack on Israel. Let's listen in. And he's also talking about the hurricane.
The people living in western North Carolina, incredible patriots. They really are. I know that area well. And they're still suffering immensely, and we need to help them, and we are going to help them as citizens in Alabama, Tennessee, Virginia, and a couple of other places got a little hit. But in particular, these places, and Georgia was hit very, very hard. But I want to thank Elon Musk for responding to my request that Starlink be provided to North Carolina. You know, and the lines were all down. They had no communication. You couldn't get to North Carolina, the area that was hit. And they were all saying, does anybody know Elon Musk? I said, yeah, I do. I raised my hand. They asked a question. I said, yeah, I know. I said, what's the problem? They said, do you think you could get him to get Starlink, which is amazing stuff, right? Starlink. And I said, I don't know too much about Starlink, but if you want it, we can get it. I called Elon, and they had so many people over there, Tommy. They had so many people over there so quickly, and they have great communication now. But I mean, it's a terrible. But thank you, Elon, and because of you, they're in really great shape now from the standpoint of emergency needs. And we're going to be going there on Friday. I hope we can get in because it's tough. It's really bad. One of the worst, they say, one of the worst hurricanes, maybe the worst hurricane they've ever seen. Some people that have done this for 25 years said that was the worst they've ever seen because of the water. The water was the big one. They had big winds, but the water was the big damage. It just went over the top of houses, if you can believe houses. And people went up to the second floor for safety, and literally the water went over the house. But we mourn all of our fellow citizens who have lost their lives, and we're keeping their families in our hearts, and we'll continue to work with them. But praise be to God. I tell you, it's really incredible. And then on top of that, as you know, the world right now is spiraling out of control. You might not have seen what's happened because it was a few hours ago. A lot of people were here. There's so many people outside, which we appreciate. But a lot of people were here a short time ago. Iran launched 181 ballistic missiles at Israel. And I've been talking about World War III for a long time. And I don't want to make predictions because the predictions always come true. We're not going to make, but they are very close to global catastrophe. We have a non-existent president and a non-existent vice president who should be in charge, but nobody knows what's going on. She was at a fundraiser in San Francisco, a city that she totally destroyed, by the way. San Francisco was the best city in the country maybe 20 years ago, and today you can't even go there. You can't even live there. And I speak against myself because I own property there. I shouldn't be saying that. I should say it's the greatest place in the world. Let's sell my property. But I say it's, I don't know, maybe it stages a comeback, but it's literally not livable. And 20 years ago, it was the best city in the country, probably one of the best cities anywhere in the world. But they, she was caught yesterday on an airplane staging a fake photo op. Did you see that with the telephone? The only problem is she didn't have the phone plugged in. She was talking. She's talking on the phone. The phone is not plugged in.
Let us come back to business news here. That was former President Trump talking about the destruction in the hurricane area. He said he will be going on Friday. Kamala Harris, the vice president, and his Democratic rival is expected to go tomorrow. And is Bob Dahl still here? Great. Bob, let us get back to all that's happening. Is it when Donald Trump says World War III? Is that something that you take and then directly correlate to, again, how people should be investing through fear?
Not really. Look, is there always a threat of a bigger war, particularly when you have events like today? Of course. But we're not in our portfolios putting anything in there because we think World War III is going to break out in the next day or two.
All right, we're looking at the stock market still in the red, but well off the lows of the session. Bob, thank you for hanging with us. We appreciate it.
Thank you.